Hey everybody, welcome to another series preview here at the Hockey Writers YouTube channel. I'm your host Jacob Billington, joined with Zach Martin and Dayton Reimer. And today we're looking over the Carolina Hurricanes and Ottawa Senators first round series. It's going to be an interesting one. Zach, how are you today?
Oh, doing good. Can't complain. It's always good to talk hockey, and it's always good talking to you guys. Yeah, really excited to preview this series.
Good. Dayton, how you doing?
Pretty good. Senators are in the playoffs, so that wasn't guaranteed for most of the season. So it's gonna be honest, didn't expect to be here. It's great.
Yeah, it was a bit of a rocky road to get here. A lot of issues throughout the season, but here we are. Here we are talking playoff hockey. So I'll get right into it, Dayton, and you can kind of elaborate a little bit. What was the journey like for the Senators to get to the playoffs? What did it take for them to get here?
Yeah, I think you said bumpy. That's like the perfect way to say it. I believe I remember the conversation in November was like, this is another wasted season. We can't do anything, at least coming from the team. I think there was comments made against some backup goaltenders that couldn't stop pucks. It got testy. It got heated. No one was having a good time. It felt very much like the Melnick era again. There was no joy in this team. They couldn't buy wins. And then maybe 2 months ago, things started to click. They really rallied behind their goaltender, Linus Ullmark, who was having a very rough season. And I think Ullmark felt that support and suddenly started playing really well. Over the last month, over the last 2 weeks, I think they've been practically unbeatable. I think they've only lost about 1 or 2 games in that stretch. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but they've gone from basically zeros to heroes. It's an incredible turnaround that a lot of people are now saying no one wants to face these guys in the playoffs. They are one of the bigger threats that aren't at the top of a division.
Yeah, and I mean, Ottawa is not your typical 8 seed. They really should have been much closer to the President's Trophy race than they were the wild card race for most of the season, but they just dealt with so much, just so many different things. Like, you had the goaltending, you had Brady Tkachuk criticism, you had injuries, like that stretch where they had no defensemen. That was kind of crazy, and they won a lot of those games. Yeah, not a clear path to get to this point. But Zach, for the Carolina Hurricanes, this season was a lot of like business as usual. There was a lot of things that kind of got in the way and whatnot, but I think everybody expected them to be here where they are right now. Maybe not the direct path that they took to get here, but they played Rod Brind'Amour hockey all season. They dealt with some questions in goal, which seems to be a trend, but it all ends up working out in the end. So talk to me about how the Hurricanes got to this point.
Yeah, it was probably one of the crazier starts this season where you're basically down Jacob Slavin he only played like 39 games all season. Like, you even give him for half a year. You had, Shane Gostisbehere out like at least 4 times. Jalen Chatfield, Keandre Miller, even the guys you brought up. Charles Alexis Legault gets his hand cut on a skate in a fight. He's out for 2 months. You're down to like your 10th, 11th defenseman on your depth chart, and you got Sean Walker, who almost played every single game outside of he didn't play the last game due to rest, but he was like your guy essentially and had a career year in numbers. And, it was just a lot of plug and play. And, you got guys like Joel Nyström gets a 4-year contract instead because he played really well. But that was the big thing. And then, like you said, goaltending too. I mean, you basically pick up Brandon Bussi as a break glass in case of emergency because you lose Kane Primo to the Toronto Maple Leafs due to a waiver claim. They pick him up 3 days before the season. You lose Pierre Kochetkov for pretty much the entire year due to a hip surgery. Freddie Anderson has the most inconsistent season he's had with the Hurricanes ever. Almost couldn't buy one for 2 months straight, and Bussi comes out of nowhere basically as a lifeline in the crease. And he goes 31-6-2 with like a sub 2.5 goals against. And yeah, his save percentage is .895, but in Carolina, that's a context now when you're talking about, I think there was a stretch of like 7 games where they had held teams to 15 shots or less. You give up 1 or 2 goals, nothing you really do about that. But I think the big piece was Andrei Svechnikov has a career year, even with him not having a point through the first 8 games. You have Nikolai Ehlers, who everyone was questioning, can he stay healthy? He's the only guy that played all 82 games this year and has a career year in assists in over 70 points for the first time. 10 power play goals, 6 game winners. Jackson Blake has a phenomenal sophomore season career high across the board there. Sebastian Aho with 80 points. And it's just you had, I think this was like 6 50-point guys and 7 guys with 20 or more goals. And that's the first time since relocation. The other team to do that was the 86-87 Whalers, and they had 8 guys do it. So I think this is a season where you had a lot of adversity. You had a stretch where you had like 5 blown leads in the span of like 8 games, and you're still able to go, 53, 22 and 7, 113 points, second most in the entire league. Your first Eastern Conference 1 seed ever in franchise history. And the only time that they were close to doing it was 05-06, and it was the Ottawa Senators by a point. So, yeah, it was just a very weird season for the Hurricanes, but in the end, somehow just battle through it, had careers across the board, and it's just, and they also had a franchise record, 291 goals in a season. Like, a lot was done by this team this year, and like you said, it was not the direct path. It was the weirdest path to do it. Somehow it worked, and here we are with 8 straight playoff appearances, and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and I think one thing I was going to bring up was Svechnikov. You mentioned pointless in the first 8 games of the season. It really looked like he was about to get traded at one point. Like, it was Brendan Moore was like, this guy's not doing well right now. And he was scratched, was he not?
No, he was never scratched. He was just sent down to the 4th line for a little while because he did start in the top 6, and then somehow he gets paired with Aho and Jarvis and just absolutely just runs. I think he had 31 goals and 70 points in 71 games. Like, he basically played almost point per game for the rest of the season and had careers across the board. I think it was like 1 assist away from breaking his career high, and that would have been 40, would have been the new high. But yeah, he basically matched or broke it and had 12 power play goals, and he did all that in 71 games.
Yeah, he's a ton of fun to watch. I love Svechnikov, and I was really kind of confused why the season started the way it did, and I was really hoping he would bounce back because some player, like, he kind of plateaued for a little bit. He was really good as a rookie, and then didn't improve, didn't get worse or anything. He just plateaued, and so him taking this step and getting to that 70-point mark is fantastic, especially considering the start to the season. So Dayton, I'll come back to you. What storylines are you watching for the Senators heading into the playoff series?
I think the big one is how is Linus Ullmark going to do? There's been so many questions surrounding him and his consistency. When he's on, he's on. When he's off full. Pardon the pun. There's a good opportunity to do it. Might as well. He's had a tough season, and I don't want to pile on him. I think enough people are doing that unjustifiably because when he plays well, he is one of the better goalies in the NHL. It's just he hasn't been able to rise to that occasion enough. And in last season's playoffs, he was fine, but he could have been better. And I think a lot of eyes are going to be on him. Beyond that, I think it's going to be looking at their top producers. Can they remain top producers? And we're looking specifically at Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle. Those are guys who need to be putting the puck in the net. And if we're comparing it to last season's playoffs against the Maple Leafs, they weren't the most noticeable guys out there. It was some of their depth guys who were really showing up. Guys like, Ridley Gregg and I believe Drake Batherson was doing very well.
Even David Perron did well.
Yes. Yeah. Who will not be there anymore. It's going to be a big spotlight on those guys to continue to produce. I don't think there's going to be any questions about Sanderson, Shabbat, Spence. Now he's pretty much solidified himself as a top 4 guy. The defense is okay now that they're healthy. It's the forwards who need to keep putting the puck in the net and the goaltender who needs to keep stopping the puck.
Yeah. What about you, Zach? What are going to be the storylines? Because, like, again, this is the 8th year in a row that they're making it. Is it same as always? Like, just keep playing your game, score more goals? Like, they kind of solved that problem. A lot of the time it's been Carolina struggles to score goals. That's been the knock on them for forever. Now that's not a problem. So what are you going to be paying attention to heading into the playoffs?
I think I'm still going to be seeing if we're going to keep that trend going because, like I said, the big question mark is can you find guys who can score? Well, you got 2 guys who had over 30. You had Nikolai Ehlers score 20. You had a bunch of guys that had over 20 goals. It's just can you keep the momentum going into the playoffs? And the one that was always a knock last year, too, was how is their special teams going to be? Because they're like, well, the power play stinks. I think they had 3 power play goals from January until the start of the playoffs last year. This year, you're talking top 5 power play, and that it's finally become lethal because it helps when you got now Jordan Stahl up there, who's gotten 20 goals for the first time in 10 years. You got Nikolai Ehlers, who's an absolute game changer with his offensive IQ, one-man zone entries, just speed, all of that stuff across the board. It's a steal that we got him for $8.5 million because how productive he's been for the Hurricanes, but I'm goaltending for me is going to be something to keep an eye on because, from what I've heard, Rod Burnmore said they're going to look at Bussy and Anderson. While Piotr is healthy, they don't know if he's going to be available because of the fact that he hasn't played pretty much all season. I think he's played 60 minutes of hockey, and that's in the AHL in the last 2 weeks. Bussy's gotten you 31 wins. You don't fluke into 31 wins. And while Anderson did struggle, he's gotten better. But I'm just curious to see, are you going with the experience in Anderson, or you're going to give the guy who you gave a 3-year extension to, who essentially helped get you here? Because without Bussy, this is an entire different conversation of the Hurricane season where you had a goalie who was out, the other one struggling. It could have been. So I'm really looking to see what direction they're going for the goaltending, and can special teams keep up the way they have been, and are you able to keep that momentum of having 291 goals in the regular season? Can you translate that into the playoffs? And their question is always, how are they on the road? Last year they had a losing record on the road. This year you're 24-12-1. You flip the script on the road. I think it was a 24-12-5. Either way, your road record's better, so you're trending in the right direction. It's just, can you take that momentum into the playoffs?
Yeah, for sure. And you talk about the kind of secondary scorers behind the top guys, and you didn't even mention Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven, and Jackson Blake. They've just got so much firepower.
It's insane. Like I said, Jackson Blake's 22 goals. Taylor Hall would have been the 8th guy to have 20 if he got there. Logan Stankoven, first full season as a center, did pretty well, things considering. A lot of people were wondering how he was going to do, and he just got better as the season went along. Yeah, this team is top to bottom. They're scoring pretty much everywhere at this point.
Yeah, so I'll move into the players to watch, and I'll stick with you, Zach. Mm-hmm. Are you going to be looking at the top guys? Is it going to be some of the depth guys? Is it some defensemen? We talked about the goalies already, but who are you going to have a close eye on coming into the playoffs?
I'm definitely going to be looking at what I think. I'm with 2 guys on defense I'm going to keep an eye on. Is Alexander Nikishin. He played 4 playoff games last year, kind of late. He just got done with his KHL season. He had basically kind of we're throwing you into the fire of the playoffs. Let's see how you do this year. You go through his first full season. I think we're going to be looking at a better playoff performance out of him because he had 33 points and 11 goals. He's the only rookie defenseman to have a shorty this season. And I think now he leads Hurricanes since relocation of points in the season by a rookie. He almost tied the franchise record, which was 35. He had 33. So I'm watching him in his first full playoffs with a full season in front of him, or that he just had. And then I'm also looking at Shane Gostisbehere. Can you stay healthy? 50 points in 55 games. When he's in, you feel a little bit better on the defense and on the power play. So I'm looking at Ghost. Forward-wise, you mentioned him, Jackson Blake. He did pretty well last year in the playoffs. This year, he had a career year. Absolutely, just balled out. Can he take that and stay running with it? And I'm looking at Andrei Svechnikov because the last couple playoffs he's looked really well, but those are off of mediocre regular seasons because he was coming back from his ACL injury that took a little bit. Now, with the season he had, are we going to see the next level of what Svechnikov could be in the playoffs when you have a full season of confidence rather than kind of you're middling around for the most part? So those are guys I'm definitely keeping an eye on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one guy I would throw in there is Jalen Chatfield. I love watching Jalen Chatfield play.
Oh, yeah.
He's such a perfect bottom pair defenseman. Like, he has more than that in him. If he's in your top four, like your number 4 defenseman, you're doing all right. But when you think of the role that a third pair defenseman plays, like, there's not many that do it as well as he does. So he's somebody I'm going to keep an eye on. And I mean, Dayton, looking at the Ottawa Senators, thinking back to last season, how well Tyler Clevin was in the playoffs, that's what I see in Jalen Chatfield. Very similar style players. But who are you going to be watching going into the playoffs?
I mean, you took one of the first ones that I was going to mention, Tyler Clevin. He looked fantastic last season in the playoffs. He's got that size, he's got that physicality, and he proved that he could use it smartly. I think there was some questions maybe heading into that series, like, is this guy going to be a positive effect, or is he just going to hit people, right? But no, he knew exactly when to throw his body around, and I think that's going to be a huge factor if that, if he's kind of given that rope to do that, right? Another guy, Warren Fogle, he's been excellent since he came to Ottawa. Really strong two-way forward, very good defensively. Also has 6 goals in his 21 games. So I think he's really given that bottom 6 a charge that they need to keep producing. Shane Pinto, one of Ottawa's probably best defensive centers. He's been taking step after step after a couple of setbacks early in his career. I'd expect him to be one of the more interesting players to watch. Of course, Jake Sanderson, he's going to be a beast, I think. I think he's probably underrated as one of the better young defensemen in the league. And he's just really good in all areas of the ice. Now that he's got a playoff series in his back pocket from last season, he now has that experience to sort of take that next step and prove that he shouldn't be underrated anymore. Already mentioned Tkachuk and Stützle a little bit, but Dylan Cousins, I think, is the last forward who you should really keep an eye on. He can be a game changer when he has the right stuff going on around him, I think. So there's a very good chance that he makes he makes a pretty big impact in this series.
Yeah, I think for me, the third line of Nick Cousins, Shane Pinto, and Michael Amadio is the players to watch for me. And that's because Ottawa's coming into Carolina as the lower seed, so Carolina gets home. And Ottawa's coming in and playing Carolina's game. Ottawa has turned into what Carolina is. It's a shutdown team. They don't allow opportunities. They don't allow any of these things. You look at like the Selke voting, and Pinto and Amadio both kind of belong in that conversation this year. They've both been phenomenal. I mean, I know half of Carolina's roster also belongs in that conversation. But when you are the younger team and coming in and trying to match somebody else's game, and I know Ottawa's not trying to match the Hurricanes, but in this series, this is the Hurricanes style. And the Hurricanes are so good at it, and they've done it for so long that it's now almost like on the back burner. They do it automatically, and now they're worrying about the offense. I feel like with where Ottawa's at, they're going to have to kind of pick and choose. Are we going to be a shutdown, or are we going to be offensively dynamic? Where Carolina is just, at this point, naturally both. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. And so those are the 3 players I'll keep my eyes on for Ottawa. What's going to have to be the X factor? So it doesn't have to be one player. It doesn't have to be any one particular thing. But is it going to be goaltending? Is it going to be staying healthy? Is it going to be Travis Green's coaching decisions? What do you think?
There's like comparing the advanced stats between these two teams. Carolina and Ottawa are incredibly close. for finishing in different places in the standings, right? It feels more of a mismatch than it actually is. So I think the X factor is, can they... Oh, man. Picking one is difficult, I guess, hey? Maybe it's going to be defense. We kind of touched on that already, but can they shut down a team who scores better than them? That's sort of where Carolina has outshone Ottawa this season in most categories. Their offense is better than Ottawa's offense. So it's going to take a lot of effort, I think, to shut that down. And thankfully, the Senators have some amazing defensive forwards. They have that defensive line of Pinto, Amadio, and Cousins. Thank you. The other Cousins. It's like, so that, I think, is going to be a big one. Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle have very good defensive tendencies. And one of the reasons they didn't score a lot in the last season's series was they were trying to shut down that top Maple Leafs line. Their goaltending has been more suspect than Carolina's, even though both have had struggles over the years, or not over the years, over the season, over the months. And so can Ottawa's key players prevent some of those high danger shots that could rattle Ullmark? I think defense is going to be kind of front and center for the Senators. And if they can play better defensively than Carolina can play offensively, they might have this series.
Yeah. And I think, like, we talk about those players down in the Senators lineup. The Hurricanes have that too. Like Jordan Martinook, Jordan Stahl, like obviously Sebastian Aho should be in the Selke conversation every year as well. But like their whole team buy-in is just unbelievable. Is that still going to be the X factor for you, Zach? Is it going to be sticking to that defensive game? Is it going to be the production, goaltending questions? What is it?
Yeah, I think it's a good mix of a lot of things, really, because while, like you said, we talk about the record they had, 113 points. I think if they didn't have 5 blown games in this, like I said, in this stretch of 8, the points could have been a lot higher. I think there was points this season where it was kind of like it almost went into cruise control. And they were looking for the easy wins, and it's like you can't do that in today's NHL. Anyone in this league can beat anyone. I mean, even the Blues, the Blackhawks, the Maple Leafs.
We just saw the Canucks beat the Avalanche 8-6.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're going to have teams that have no reason to beat people do it because that's just everyone's got stars. So I think it's just for the Hurricanes, they have to, like you said, that buy-in has to be the same, because the minute 1 or 2 or 3 or how many guys start trying to go outside of that box and try to do their own thing, then you're not in the position, you're off step and all this type of stuff. So I think this is where the Hurricanes really need to just, everyone's pulling on the same rope, everyone's doing the same thing, staying consistent, not get, lax or, kind of take the foot off the gas. It's like, no, you got to keep your foot on the gas the entire time. You got to play your game for 60 minutes. You cannot, while, Dane's mentioned that the Hurricanes do score more than the Hurricanes or have the metrics and stuff like that. I've been telling people, the Senators have guys who can score and they will make you pay if you give them the inch. Like the Senators are you give them an inch, they'll take more than the mile. They'll take the full 3 miles and really put it to you if you give them those opportunities. I think that's where the Hurricanes really need to use that X factor of staying in your system and play your game and not just, take a breath. If you take a breath, you're going to get burned, and we've seen that this year. I think that's the one thing the Hurricanes need to do is just don't give the Senators any room. Like you guys talked about, the Senators are a shutdown team. They're also going to be offensive. But if the Hurricanes really want to shut this thing down and play their style of game, then, this could be a series where it's you feel like you got no room, you're getting suffocated. But if you breathe, Ottawa could be a team that's going to be, all right, we're going to make you pay for it. And that's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think the series, famously, Rod Brindamore said that they didn't get swept against the Panthers. I could
It was
see it
one
going
goal.
that way.
It was one goal every series. It was multiple overtime games. So I
Exactly.
get where he was coming. It was swept, but I saw where he was coming from. It was one goal or less. Like both. Those
Yeah, no,
goals.
and I completely agree. Like it wasn't a traditional sweeping. Like yes, on paper it was a 4-0 series, but it could have just as easily been 4-0 for Carolina. And I could
Right.
see it being that kind of series here as well.
Mhm.
It might not be a 4-game series. It might be 4, 5, 6, or 7. I don't know. But I feel like any game could go either way, and I feel like it'll all be like 2-1 games, 3-2, or like 3-1 with an empty net, things like that. Like it's going to be a very, very close series in terms of that. But I also think that's going to be because whichever team gets ahead is just kind of going to sit back and do the defending rather than keep trying to pile on. And both teams can do that so well. So that kind of leads right into the keys to victory. So your X factor would certainly be a part of that. But is there anything else you wanted to add about the Hurricanes and how they're going to win against the Senators?
I think it's just being able to continue what they've done on the special teams. I mean, they kill teams on the penalty kill. Like they've gotten, I think Seth Jarvis had like 4 shorthandeds. I think Al had a couple. There's a lot of guys that can use shorthanded. So I think if the Hurricanes are able to do their thing where, you're top 5 on the power play, your penalty kill is just outside the top 10, but you can score on the shorthanded as well. I think that's going to be something that's going to be very huge to keep an eye on. Is if can you keep that special teams rolling. And it's, just being able to have all these guys who, put up all these goals, all of these points. Can you keep that running as well? And goaltending really has to stick to it. We can't, if you start getting the inconsistent play where it's like, okay, which version are we going to get you tonight? That's going to be a problem. So you're hoping that these guys can lock it in and, be on their A game because, every series in the playoffs are going to be tough because it's the playoffs. All the good teams are here, but it's, shaky goaltending can end your series really fast. You might not lose it in game 1, but it'll put you in the hole really fast. I think that's something that the Hurricanes really going to need to hopefully, if they're locked in the crease and just do their thing, I think that's going to be a big help to win the series.
Yeah, I think so too. Dayton, I didn't come to you for the X factors before I went to the keys to victory. So we'll kind of lump these in together. What's going to be your biggest X factor? And then what are some other factors that are going to help lead the Senators to a win over the Hurricanes?
Yeah, I think, we talked about the defense already, but Brady Tkachuk will probably be that biggest X factor. He's one of those hard on your sleeve type of leaders, and sure, he maybe isn't putting up the most points on the team. But when he is playing the best, like Zach mentioned, he's the kind of guy who will take a mile if you give him an inch. He's very impactful at what he does, and it's why a lot of players and teams hate playing against him. If he is on top of his game, that's going to lead into a better chance for the Senators. I think another key to winning / X factor is their ability to stay out of the penalty box. The Senators take more penalties than the Hurricanes, and they have a much worse penalty kill than the Hurricanes. That needs to be fixed if the Senators want to win. If they can stay out of the box, they have just as good of a chance as any to get ahead and get those power play goals. The power play percentage is practically the same. It's separated by 0.9. They're very close in that regard. They have those players who can put the puck in the net. They have those players who can shut down. It's mainly just going to be, can they stay consistent? Can they stay out of the box? And will their big leaders come out to play? And then we're looking at Tkachuk. We're looking at Stützle. We're looking at Ullmark. We're looking at Sanderson, who I have the least worry about, but he still needs to show up. I think their defensive guys have proven that they will show up. Those aren't guys we have to worry about. They know how to win those tough battles. But when you compare, I think, the Hurricanes top versus the Senators top, there's more Hurricanes that you have to worry about than the Senators. So I don't know. It's I think when the Senators' top guys are on top of their game, they can be better. And maybe that's a bold take, but it's really probably out of 1-goal games. These are both very, very good teams who do things very similarly. And so it's going to be a grind, and it's going to be fantastic to watch.
Yeah, it's not going to be an easy series for any team. And like I already said it, but it's such a weird 1 versus 8 situation because it does follow the 1 versus 8 format for this series. But yeah, Ottawa should be much higher in the standings, and it's not going to be an easy out for Carolina. But Ottawa's not going to have an easy time because Carolina, like, they all know what they're doing here. They've got so many veterans on the team that have so many playoff games. And they do have the mix of the young guys with that youthful energy that are like happy to be here. Let's go like kick some butt and whatnot. Like I'm really excited to see like what Stan Coven does, what Jackson Blake does, and those guys like that. And Nikishin, I'm one of the biggest Nikishin fans in the league. I have been since he got drafted. Big fan of his. Really excited to pay attention to him a lot in this series. But that'll bring us to the series MVP. Zach, who is going to be the best player in this series? And it doesn't have to be from the Hurricanes. It doesn't have to be from either team in particular. But who's going to be the MVP of the series?
I mean, that's tough, Mike. There's so many guys you can talk about on both sides, really. You can talk about Kachuk, you can talk about Stützle, you can talk about, I'll even say Jake Batherson, who I honestly believe, and I've been saying this, and I got a series preview that just came out at the Hockey Writers. Batherson's so underrated. He is not talked about enough. I mean, unless you watch the Senators or enough or stuff like that. But outside of that, you hear the same number of guys, but you don't really hear about Batherson. So you could go that way too. Hurricanes, you talk about Ehlers, Aho, Jarvis, Svechnikov. You said Blake. There's so many guys you can really look at. I would say series MVP. I'm going to go defense. I'm going to go Shane Gostisbehere.
I like it.
I think just because of the fact that, if he didn't miss so many games, he only played 55. I think he had 55 points. Like he had 50 points. He was not that far off from breaking Brent Burns' single season record for points by a Hurricanes division. He had 61. He was 11 off, didn't play 55 games. If he even played remotely 65 to 70, he would have had 70 points. Like he was that, like that's how much of a tear he was. Like at one point he was a point per game defenseman. And that's just when he is healthy. So I'm thinking if he stays healthy, it is killing it whoever he's paired with. If it's Nikishin or if it's Walker, or there's been points he was with Slavin. If he keeps doing what he does in power play 1, he could be a menace for the Hurricanes. And I think his defense has gotten so much better this season. I don't think it's talked about enough. He's almost become, I'm not saying he's a two-way defenseman, but he's gotten that capabilities where he can play really good defense to help him with the transition to the offense. So I'm looking at Shane Gostisbehere.
Yeah, and I think moving the puck is a defensive ability in its own. If you have the puck, you're not worried about defending against the other guys. So in a sense, like his offense provides enough defense to kind of fill his role. And like you said, his defense did get a lot better this season than in years past. Before he was just purely like a good shot from the point, puck moving guy, whatever. But this year, like he is pretty steady, and I mean that's the Rod Brindamore effect. That's the Carolina effect. And I do really like that pick. I think Gostisbehere has the potential to be kind of the game breaker in this, and in such a tight series that we all anticipate this is going to be. Having that extra burst of offense from the point is going to be huge for them.
Yeah,
Dayton, what do you think? Who's going to be your series MVP?
I hope I'm not cheating by picking one from each team. But I think if the Hurricanes win, we're looking at Sebastian Aho as top performer. He's been one of my favorite players for, basically since he came into the NHL. He's so skilled in everything that he does. He knows how to put up points. He knows how to shut down guys. He's a very skilled two-way player, and I don't think he gets enough credit for that. And if they beat the Senators, I think he will be front and center as that driving force. If the Senators win, I think we're looking at the emergence of Shane Pinto as not just a really good third, second line center, but a top defensive center in the NHL. As I mentioned, defense is going to be really important for the Senators to shut down the Hurricanes' top offensive units. There's a lot of guys who can. Pinto, I think, might be one of the better guys to do it. And if they can keep that goal total limited, he's going to be playing at the top of his game. He's going to be, I think, a beast. He's got that skill to do some damage. And yeah, there's a lot of guys, like, we keep talking about the same names. They're going to be doing well, but I think to get by the Hurricanes, you need a guy who, in the middle six, is stepping up above what he is sort of expected to do. And for me, that's Shane Pinto.
For me, I'm gonna against most other teams, I would probably say if the Senators were to win, it would be Tim Stützle. I don't think Tim Stützle is going to be able to dazzle the way that he does against the Hurricanes. And like for the Hurricanes, I think it's going to be such an even match that nobody's going to stand out. But I think Ridley Gregg is going to be the one because he can fit into that kind of boring game. Like for outsiders that don't follow this series, I could see it being labeled as a boring series, and kind of justifiably, just two really good shutdown teams. That's what happens. But Ridley Gregg is good enough to fit into that mold, but also stir the pot quite a bit. And I think that's kind of how Ottawa might get the advantage, is like in between the whistles and getting in the head of the Hurricanes players. And I think everybody's going to be so focused on shutting down Tkachuk or Stützle or Batherson that Ridley Gregg might get forgotten about. And I don't think he's going to light it up offensively or anything like that, but I think the impacts that he's going to have is going to be huge. But all of the same can be said for like Jackson Blake. Like, I love the way that Blake plays. I really don't know. I just gave like 7 names and I don't know who it's going to be. Final answer, I'm going to go Brandon Bussi, just because it's going to have to be a goalie in this series, I think. And I don't know. I think the story of Bussi is just fantastic. So that leads us into our series prediction. Zach, I'll start with you. Who wins how many games?
I'm sticking to the same train that I've been going over, and I could see this going 7, but I'm going Hurricanes in 6. I think they're going to get done a Canadian Tire and kind of just, I know a lot of people are picking. I've seen predictions of Senators in 6. I've seen Senators in 7. A lot of people are jumping on the Senators train. I mean, hey, this is a tough team to face, but I just think with the Hurricanes, they're 7 for 7 and winning a round in the playoffs. Like I said, I'm giving a lot of respect to the Senators. I've seen like people saying, "Oh, it's going to be 4 or 5." I'm like, it's not going to be that. Like, Senators are too good to just end this thing to get knocked out that quick. I think it's going to be Hurricanes in 6, but I wouldn't be surprised if this thing goes 7, just how close these teams are. But Canes in 6 is my answer.
All right, what about you, Dayton?
Similar answer, but I'm going to go the opposite. I think it's Senators in 7. This is a team who is young against a veteran, heavy, experienced team who knows how to win in the playoffs. It's going to be tough. It's going to be gritty. I did think about picking Greg as my Senators MVP because he is just the worst, like in the best way. He's going to have to stay out of the box though, because he pushes that line. It's going to be tough, but I think the Senators are coming up. And are the Hurricanes coming down? I'm not sure. I don't know if I would be so bold to say that. But for this young team who has something to prove after so many years of nothing, they're going to have, I think, a little bit of that extra chip on their shoulder to prove that they can hang with the big boys. And I think they get her done in the 7th game.
Yeah, I think kind of to build on to the point that you made, there's a risk that the Hurricanes go into this series with their mindset on how are we going to get past the Eastern Conference and not be as worried about the first round. rather than the third round, because that's where all of their troubles have been. And you have to worry about the team that's in front of you. You have to beat the best to be the best. And so that could get in the way. Ottawa's immaturity could get in the way as well. Like, yeah, they have guys that have been here, done that, like Claude Giroux. Michael Amadio's been to the playoffs. Warren Fogel's been great. But there's certainly some risks on both sides. I'm going to go, like I said, it's going to be all 1-goal games, overtime games, and this and that. It's really just a coin flip. I'm going to go Hurricanes on 7, though, because of the point that you made, Zach, that the Hurricanes haven't lost in the first round in 7 straight seasons. They've been to at least the second round every time. The counterpoint to that would be, well, they're due, so I'll go with Ottawa, but I don't know. It's just, I'm so indecisive on it. I'm going to say like triple overtime game 7.
Oh,
Up the coin. Like, I really have no idea who to pick on this one.
Please don't kill me with this, because I got to cover that thing, man. Don't do that to me. Don't say triple overtime. You know how it is, how tough it is for us already to cover these games. Triple OT, shoot. You just made my night worse. We haven't even got there yet.
All right. Zach and Dayton, thank you so much for joining me. Everybody that's been watching, hope you enjoyed. If you made it this far, leave a comment down below. Let us know your series prediction, your series MVP, your X factors, all those things that we talked about. Make sure to head to thehockeywriters.com, check out Zach's content, check out Dayton's content, as well as signing up for the Hockey Writer Substacks and get all of the latest content right to your newsletter or right to your email. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see one of you two in a couple weeks to talk about round 2. Have a good one.